Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh. Welcome to another edition of Encounters here on the Akal channel. Today we have a very special guest. His name is Harish Malhotra. He is a prolific author, an author of 17 books no less. He's also the founder of the Asian Rationalist Society and a social scientist. A very interesting conversation ahead. So let's not waste any time and introduce to you Mr. Harish Malhotra. Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh.
Thank you.
Welcome to Encounters. So to begin with, I've tried to introduce you as best I can. You are a social scientist, but you are somebody who was born in India, and the majority of your education has come in the UK. After you arrived here at, what, 21?
I was only 21 when I arrived in 1973, or 72, at the end of 72. I had my degree from India, from DAV College Jalandhar. I had my BSc before I came to this country. But at the time, as you know, that our qualifications, they were not recognized, even now they are not so much recognized. Then I had to work in a bakery first, which was Lions Bakery in Smellik. And
the big one.
Very big one, where now Asda's and other stores are at the time. And even when I go there, I still remember that I used to work here. And I worked from 6 o'clock till 9 o'clock in the evening every day. And that was my first job, I think, after my education back in India. But then I started working in Albright and Wilson Chemical Factory. During that period of time, I think it was only a month just in this country, my father actually died. And that was a quite big blow to me, and he was only 52. And I was 21. Then I had to struggle quite a lot, because loads of my relatives were here, which my father actually sent them here to this country. And they were here since 1952. And I was born in 1951, and I was only 1 year old when my uncles actually arrived in this country. They did not give me any shelter at all. And I had actually to move out to somebody else who was my elder brother's family friends. My elder brother was here, and he was living with one of my uncles. And I'm still very grateful to that family who kept me at Windburn Lane. And I still have got very good relationship with them. Their parents actually are dead now, but those boys and those girls, they're just like my brothers, and I still treat them like my brothers and sisters. So that's a relationship, you see. This is how you develop. While I had my 4 uncles in this country at the time, mere 4 chachas, but I had to live with somebody else. So
how did you develop the sense of wanting to become educated?
I think, was
it a sense of I want to serve community, or self-fulfillment?
I think that's a quite good question. Then I started working in, as I said, in Albright and Wilson Chemical Factory, which is still in Oldbury. It was a 12-hour shift from 6 to 6 in the morning and 6 to 6 in the evening, at night time, and then used to have 4 days off. And during that period of time, I actually read a lot of literature, loads of books I actually read during that period of time. Even at night time, I was in a good position actually to work in a certain part of the factory, where I had ample time actually to read. So I read loads of books, you name it, a lot of literature, Tolstoy's books, for example, or Charles Dickens, or Bertrand Russell. Quite a few books which I thought.
An eclectic taste there.
Yeah, and very intellectual taste anyway. And then I actually made a decision at the time. It was always in my mind to educate myself a bit better, or to enhance my education. I think the other thing was that because the rejection from very close relatives, I want to actually prove that you are nothing in front of me, and I will tell you one day that who am I. And that determination actually made me that I want to educate myself.
That gave you steel.
That gave me steel, and I think it was inspiration in a way that I want to succeed. And when quite a funny thing, when I used to look at people who was sitting or standing at the bus station or somewhere, with a briefcase, and I was thinking, one day I will have that briefcase, and I will go one day like this, and I have to work very hard on that. So one day came when I made a decision, went to my personal manager in Albert and Wilson Chemical Factory and said that I want to leave the job. The job was very, very skilled, and I was earning loads of money. I think at the time even I was earning probably more than £300 per week. And number of my colleagues who were working with me, and they were actually stunned, and they said, oh, something had gone wrong to his head, to this guy.
He's gone mad.
He has gone mad, why he's leaving this sort of job. Which is
leaving security, stability.
Leaving security, stability.
The financial stability.
And financial stability as well. And I said, no, I have made my decision and I will go. So I left. Even the personal manager, actually, he questioned me. He said, are you mad? Why are you leaving this? I said, no, I want to study. And he started laughing that, oh, would he study? And I said, anyway, leave that to me. And the time will tell. So actually I left. And quite funny now, even up to now, 2016, some of my colleagues, they're still working there.
It was a secure job, though, because it still exists.
No, it was a secure job. No, I'm not saying, but what I'm saying is it.
You took a leap of faith.
I'm not against any job. I actually value the labor.
Oh, absolutely.
And I've got nothing against anything which is a small job or the big job.
I was alluding to you'd taken a leap of faith.
Yeah.
That job still exists today.
Absolutely.
You could still be working there today.
I could have been working.
You could be financially secure. You'd be in a very,
not only
very strong
probably
position.
may have gone to somewhere else, even still maybe working there as well.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But the point I'm making is that
you took that leap of faith.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's faith in yourself.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's very, very important. If you believe that you can do that. There's a guy, I think he's a social scientist, which is his name is Grottenberg, and he's a German philosopher, social scientist, and he done a study, I think for 20 years internationally with a number of countries. And what he found was that that we need to teach to children, particularly who are deprived children, that I can and I have and I will.
Oh, I will.
And I think those are the issues which actually were bubbling in my mind, that I want to do something and I have got a faith and I can do it. And so I actually started as a social worker student, which used to be Birmingham Polytechnic at the time.
Social science.
So I want to become. I think there was a fire, or you can say, or still there is anyway, spark, that I want to do something for the people, which can give them benefit, which can actually which actually can reduce their sufferings in a way. So I want to do something for the people, and that will give me a lot of satisfaction. So I found that social work was a profession where I can earn my living, and also as a career, as a profession, and also I will help people to actually have a better life, or to have a quality of life. So I started that, and I got the admission at Birmingham Polytechnic, and that was the first encounter of education of this country, British education, which is totally different than the education which we had in India.
In more ways than just a cane.
I mean, absolutely. The one thing which I still remember, that my tutor's name, his name was Peter, and I was calling him sir. This is what I have been taught in a way.
Discipline.
And he actually listened one or two times, and he said, "Listen to me. You don't call me Peter." And I was stunned. I said, I have done something wrong. He said, just not even call me Peter. He said, don't call me sir. Don't even call me Peter. Don't, just say to me Pete. And that was a quite big shock, that he's my tutor and he's my lecturer. And as people call him, he's a professor, but he was not professor anyway, because in India, anyone who is teaching at the university or the college, they call themselves professor, which is wrong, completely wrong. So that was I think is a big shock to the whole system, that how the education is done in this country. And he said to me, "You are working with me. I'm being your teacher, your lecturer, but you also know a lot of things which I will learn from you as well." And so we're working on equal footing.
It's a mutual education.
It's mutual learning, and this is how the adults learn in this country. And the other encounter which I must share with you was that when I was a student of social work, out of 79 students, I still remember that, and I was the only Asian student. And there was a woman who, her name was, I think, Barbara Smith. And she said to me, in front of everyone, we had a big class of 79, and she said, oh, do you mind if I call you Harry, because it's difficult for me to call your name Harish. And I was very clear on those issues, and I said, Barbara, I don't mind, but do you mind, because it's difficult for me to call you Barbara if I call you Balbir Kaur? And she could not answer me that. I said it is on the equal footing, because if you got a difficulty, I also have got difficulty to pronounce it.
Harish is actually quite easy.
It's quite easy.
I went to the school education system as Gurmukh.
Right.
And had plenty of my own issues at that point. I had letters of the alphabet added in that weren't even there.
Because I think I had still got the views on this one, is that the one that when I was probably about to born, my parents, they had their own sentiments, they had their own emotions, and they also thought about what name we'll give to our child, if he's a male or if he's a female. And then, and as the Asians do, and there's a religious connotation as well.
Of course.
And so there's religious sentiments in that one. And the whole family is involved in that. My grandparents may have been involved in that. My uncles and aunts may have been involved in that. And that name was given specific to me, that this is our child. And this is how I was known since I was, at the time, I think I was, I don't know, I was 24 or 25 or something like that. I don't remember the date now. And someone is murdering you in seconds, and you start accepting it. And I said, no, I'm not going to accept. I'm going to stick to this one. This is my name. If you got difficulty, I can actually help you how to pronounce it. But I will not say that you will just change my name because it is convenient for you. So that was a quite big encounter.
You know, your time in education, obviously you went on to social work, and you ended up lecturing as part of the Open University.
Still I'm lecturing,
So you're now Dr. Harish Malhotra. So you went and you were lecturing now, you give speeches at seminars and stuff like that.
Absolutely.
So your contribution to the education system of the UK is quite immense.
Absolutely.
For somebody who only began a formal education in the UK at 21, even though you had already had your degree from back in India.
Mm-hmm.
But your experiences with the education system in the UK prompted you to write a book on the education system of the UK.
I think when it's quite interesting, just going through my journey because I worked in Coventry, which is Hillfield area, which was quite a deprived area and probably still is.
It still is.
I come across with a number of issues, and those issues are still here. A number of our Asian girls, runaway girls as they used to call them at a time, and I dealt with those sort of cases with the gangs. You know, the gangs used to go from Birmingham to Coventry and Coventry to Birmingham.
What year was this?
I'm talking about 83, 84 at the time.
And we're sitting in 2016.
Yeah.
And there's issues of
still
girls
issues
running away and
actually
gangs.
from those real stories, I wrote a book which is called Vakri Nasl. And that book is still used for A-levels Punjabi in this country. So anyway, going from the education, so I actually stayed 2 years in Coventry, and then I came to Sandwell, which is again another deprived county actually, or council you can say.
Yeah, it's a district.
And district, and it's a council now, Sandwell Council. And so I worked there for another 2 years, and I was promoted as a senior social worker and then as a training officer, and I was the one actually who did run a training scheme and recruited a number of people from Asian background and also from African Caribbean background and also some very deprived background from
you were the principal officer basically.
So I was training officer and also manager. For
ethnic community.
And then I moved from here to Northampton. And that was a quite big jump, and that was a principal officer for minority ethnic communities. And I was working with the deputy director, he was my line manager, and working with councillors and with chief executive and also people. And actually did a lot of work in Northampton, and still it's a mark there that I did a lot of work there. But when I was there in Northampton, because my relationship with my line manager was very good, and I said to him that I need your help, that I want to study, I want to do masters. And I did my masters then, he funded that. I did my masters at Warwick University part-time. It took me 2 years.
Yeah.
And I finished that master's. I took my posters in 1989 and then finished my master's in 1991. During that period of time, because I was commuting every day from Birmingham to Northampton, which is very exhausting anyway.
Yeah.
It took me more than 1 hour every day in the morning and 1 hour.
That's right across the Midlands.
Yeah. And then I got a job as an area manager of education welfare service in Birmingham, and that was also quite a big job. And I moved here. At the time, I started my doctorate, my PhD with University of Birmingham, and that was finished in 1997. So I was trying to look at the education system because...
What was the title of your PhD?
The PhD, that's what I'm coming to, because the contribution to the education system, I think while I was doing my doctorate, because the title is the permanent exclusion of Asian pupils from secondary school in Birmingham. And that
permanent exclusion.
Permanent people, some pupils actually are permanently kicked out from the schools. So I was looking at what actually happens to the Asian children in that system. I think when I was doing my doctorate, then I found out the actual education system of this country. What are the good points and what are the flaws in the education system, and how actually individual discrimination operates, and how the institutionalized discrimination actually operates, or racism operates in this country. And that actually opened loads of my eyes actually in that context. And I still feel that there's still loads of things to do in the education system of this country. And sometimes people feel that everything is in Britain is okay, everything is not okay in Britain, because people do not understand the education system, how it operates. Even now, there's our Prime Minister, she's saying that she wants to extend the grammar school, which is a quite totally different issue, and we can talk about that in a different way.
You wrote a book on the education system.
I wrote a book, which is...
What was that called?
I think two books were written. When I was doing my master's, at the time I finished my book, which is called Racism in Britain, and there's a collection of number of articles how racism actually played in housing department, in health services, for example, or in social services, or in other areas of this country in different institutions. And this book, which is another one, which when I finished my doctorate in 1997. And I was very proud of that I finished my doctorate anyway at the time. It took me very, very hard work actually to finish that. And that book is called Racism in Education in this country. So that book is also out. I think talking about the work which I must actually credit my wife because she actually helped me throughout to look after children, otherwise couldn't have done it. I used to go to this library, which is in Parivar, which is I think called University of Central England.
Now it's the UCE, yeah. Absolutely.
At the time, because that was near to my home.
Actually, was that the UCE when you were there?
I think when I finished my doctorate, it was called UCE at the time. Yeah. I think now it's called.
But as you went through your degree, it was Birmingham Polytechnic.
But my degree, I was studying with University of Birmingham, which is in Edgbaston.
Right, absolutely,
But I was using the library there.
At Parivar.
And Parivar, because you can use any university library at the time. And I used to go there about 9 o'clock in the morning, and then finish about 10 or 11, I think. And I still remember my daughter, she was very young, and she said one day to my wife, she said, "Mommy, I never see my daddy."
That's the sacrifices we make.
And that took my heart out. Anyway, sorry, I think this is the hard work which you have to do. And I was working every day from, as I said, 9 o'clock till evening 11 o'clock, and 7 days a week. So it's not easy, and that's another thing which I found, that to study in this country, particularly the doctorate, is not easy. Many of our
With regard to the book itself, you allude to the book. Well, you specifically say that racism is institutionalized in the education system.
Yes.
This is not something that a teacher has a slant of their opinion.
No. It's a research which is done systematically.
Do you still believe that to be the case now?
I think I still believe that there is racism in this country.
Institutional.
I think there is institutional racism. Now, what they try to claim is that they have made, after McPherson, they have made very good policies. And I used to be senior equality officer, and I have tried to implement those policies.
McPherson was specifically about the Metropolitan Police.
I think it wasn't.
Was it wide-ranging?
No, it
education
wasn't.
Housing?
It wasn't particularly for the police. It was for all the institutions, including the local authorities. So even up to now, I'm a governor of a school, and that school and my that head teacher is still suffering the discrimination and the racism which we are facing even up to now. And recently we had won a case against the.
So McPherson was 1998.
I think it was 1997 or 98. I think at the time.
Yes. March 98.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think.
So what I'm saying is, it's. You can make the good policies, but how they're implemented, and how they're monitored, that's another, and how they're reviewed, that's another issue. At the end of the day, we are the human beings. We are the ones who are going to implement it. We are the ones who are going to give training to all of our employees, and we are the ones who are going to review it. So how sincere we are in that, that's another point to look at. Even in the Open University, for example, where I'm teaching at the moment, sometimes you can see it. And you feel that this is happening. It becomes very difficult actually to prove it in the court sometimes, because it's a subjective matter, and also to have those concrete evidence to support your case. It's not that easy at all.
It's not.
Yeah.
And that's to try to prove something that's tangible. Racism is tangible.
Tangible, not only that, and you're fighting on your own against an institution. Institution has got so much power, so much resources, which you haven't got it. So I think the answer to your question is that it still exists. Yeah, I think
racism still exists, still a problem.
I think it is
hard to address because it's hard to prove.
It's hard to prove. That's what it is. It's in the same way. Even up to now, we know that the women, they are even still given less money in many jobs, and also if you look at how many women actually are chief officers, and how many women actually are the chief directors in number of institutions, number of firms or companies. So you can see that.
So this disparity of opportunities,
and also in the religious institutions as well. For example, even they're saying that we have made a bishop, or we have made a priest, woman priest, but still there's loads of problems.
Do you feel that the token gestures?
I think.
You don't think that's actual change?
I don't think so. I think it will take some time, but at least they're going towards it. But compared to Asian community, we've got a different problem altogether.
We're coming on to that. We've got time for a break now.
Yeah.
But as you said, we have Asian problems. We have issues which you're trying to address also there. So racism exists.
Yeah.
It's tangible. But it's hard to prove.
Yes.
Likewise, we have issues in the Asian community with another type of institution.
Absolutely.
Which has even more issues.
Absolutely.
And is even more hard to prove.
Yeah.
And for that, you were offering a reward for anybody that can prove the existence of that.
Yes.
And that is very, very interesting. So we're going to quickly cut for a break now. Join us after the break and find out what problem the Asian community has, which is institutionalized, also very, very hard to prove the existence of. But if you can, Harish Malhotra and the Asian Rationalist Society will reward you with £100,000 sterling. Don't miss out. Join us after the break. Encounters will be back. Welcome back to Encounters. Before the break, we alluded to a issue that the Asian community has at the moment. Baji, what issue is that, and what are you offering a reward for?
I personally feel that the superstitions are grossly infused in our Asian culture or in our Asian society. Either we are Sikh or we Hindus or Muslims or Asian Christians. And I personally feel that these tantrics, these astrologers, these people who call themselves Vastu Shastra or whatever they want to call them, Babbe, Saad, yani ke Peer, they are social criminals, and they're robbing people, giving the false hope, and saying that they can cure any of your social problems, or also they can cure any of your health problems or your mental health problems or the physical health problems or any sort of problems or any social problems at all, marriage problems, you name it.
Yeah, cancer, depression,
and I because I have taught complementary medicine in the university, alternative and complementary medicine, and the empirical research which I found, there's nothing, absolutely nothing. We couldn't actually find anything at all. There's no proof. So far, there's
homeopathy we're talking about.
We're talking about homeopathy, and also we're talking about these astrology and other stuff.
Oh, so the Babbe and homeopathy.
Yeah.
You think both?
Both have got no absolute. Let me just.
Desi Dwama we're talking.
Let me specify it. One, that the Babbes, they have got tantrics or astrologers, they have got no power, and they're telling lies. That's one thing. The second is the homeopathy has got no evidence. They're saying that this can cure you.
Absolutely zero.
Absolutely zero. Same with the Vastu Shastra, that you should have a toilet here, you should have a darwaja here, you should have a
feng shui.
Yeah, I mean that has no base at all. And the other thing is saying that though, if you put some rice there, if you put some dal there, if you put some nug there or this and this, nothing, absolutely nothing. Or you wear this sort of color, this will change your fate. Absolutely nothing. There's no evidence so far, scientific evidence, which can influence your life.
So wearing a red T-shirt on a Thursday is not going to help?
No, not at all, not at all. I mean, it's a total con, I think. And also some people say that, we can talk to the dead bodies, dead people or whatever, your ancestors, and all sort of nonsense. It has got no base at all. So that's the one thing which I felt very strongly, because it's infused in our culture, and innocent people, particularly our sisters, our mothers, and other women folks, they are being looted by these people, and they are easily influenced by them, because they wanted something good for the family, so they are easily influenced, and they are being robbed financially. And in many cases, I have encountered, and also other people in India and other parts of the world, that these Babbas and tantrics, they have sexually exploited them, they have financially exploited them, and they have physically beaten them, saying that these women or some people, they have been possessed and they want to take out that put or whatever it is.
Spirit, yeah.
and evil spirits. So I think all that has got no evidence at all. And what I'm saying is, because you asked for the reward, and I will pay £100,000 if anybody can prove me that these things exist, and also if they can put anything spell on me or to do something to me, and I will still pay them £100,000. And also my society will pay £100,000 to anyone, anywhere in the world.
So it's a £200,000 reward.
Yeah. One is my personal.
You're willing to match it?
Absolutely, I will match it. Yeah. So the point I'm making is, I'm only. Why
does that include a Western, sort of, for want of a better phrase, say a clairvoyant?
Absolutely.
Or somebody who says they can do a seance.
Absolutely. There's no evidence. There's no evidence at all. It's a total con. And I'm very surprised that the British government has not made a law in this country to actually noose them or to stop them altogether. And I'm, with my society, we're trying our best to actually make a law against these kind of things, that so that we can stop it altogether. But so far, we have been successful to take 3 Babbas to prison, and they are actually in prison for a number of years, and the recent one which have been in prison for 9.5 years, and that was only done with the help of training standards of the local authorities,
Yeah.
and also with the police as well. And the other thing which I'm saying to people is that we should report to the immigration department, and 4 tantric astrologers have been deported to India because I worked with police at the time.
Under what circumstances? For failure to declare?
They were here illegally living in this country, and they were robbing people, just telling the future, and they couldn't find their own future.
But even visiting ones, do you think that would be...
Gurmukh-ji, if you are on a visitor's visa, you're not supposed to work in this country. Did you know that? And you can report them to the police that this guy is working and he has been or she has been here as a visitor. So that's illegal.
Would that not be as hard to prove as the Jaddu Tona itself?
No. What I'm saying, the points I'm saying is that if someone is doing the business because he or she is making the money, so he's not paying the tax. So HM revenue, they will be after him. Police will be after him. Immigration will be after him, and also the trading standard will be after him because he's taking the money from people and it's cannot actually prove whatever the money has been taken for.
Offering a service.
So there are 3 or 4 things which we can do. So I think people should actually do that. And if people find it difficulty to actually do something, then they should contact us, to myself and also to our society. This is very important because we want people should live a better life. People should live a life which should not be robbed off. Their quality of life should not be robbed off from them, and they shouldn't be financially deprived for nothing because they're not providing any services at all. And I think it's quite a slur in our society. Many people actually still believe in those sort of nonsense.
Why do they believe in them?
I think if I look back at why the background of it, because the way our particular women, they have not been educated in our country. Our mothers, for example, or our grandmothers, for various reasons, and we don't want to go into that. There were various reasons they were not given the equal right for the education, and they were classed as a second-class citizen anyway.
As backward people.
As backward people, because, and that's why they didn't know anything better. And at the time, the ruling class or the Brahmins or whatever it is, at the time, they were actually saying that if you do this way or that way, and that has been
obviously charging a fee for their advice.
For advice, yeah, absolutely, and saying that if you do this thing, this could be done. So those superstitions have been going on for centuries. To come out from that, it's not that easy.
But surely at some point, when none of this is happening, when people are saying to you, wear a t-shirt on Thursday, all your problems, wear a red t-shirt on Thursday, all your problems will be solved. Surely, after 50 Thursdays, and your problem still exists, people then say, well, this doesn't work. A placebo effect only works if you're seeing positive results.
What actually happens is, out of 50 people, for example, this has been experimented on some people, and if it goes well for 2 or 3 people, and they start, saying that, oh, it is working. So they have got the propaganda system which actually says to people that it works, and people, because people didn't have the other way out to give the alternative that this doesn't exist. So the whole machinery, for example, even now, for example, all the newspapers they give you the weekly future of you, all the newspapers, so people start believing in this, and there is loads of horoscopes, and there's loads of shops, for example, which actually tell you, these astrologers tell about your future, just looking at your hands and looking at your, for example, the forehead, and also the patris or whatever it is, So people carry on with the traditions, and the radio and televisions, they are also making that sort of propaganda. The encounters against all this, whatever is going on, there are very few people like me or people like my organizations back in India, and there are very few people. So compared to the conditioning which is done by the advertisement and the propaganda, the other people who are going to say against them, they are very few. So people actually just adhere to that. This is what they're saying. Majority of people actually believing in this one, and these are only very few people who are not believing in this. That can't be right.
Why are people in the UK who are now socially more aware, and better educated, why are they falling foul and prey to these barbers?
It's a very good question. You know that the traditions, they die very, very slowly, and it can take centuries. And the people who are born and brought up in that sort of conditioning, in that sort of culture, and they are here, our mothers and our grandmothers, and they believe in those kind of things, and they carry on with that one. And the our children, they sometimes feel, oh, my grandmother is saying this, my mother is saying that, because we have got our own emotions and affections.
But you're seeing victims who are, deprived of 25,000, 30,000 pounds.
More than that.
These are educated people.
Because of the belief system, because people are being conditioned.
That's strong.
The conditioning is so strong, it's not easy to come out. You see, our personality, as you know, our personality is made by the conditioning, the way we are being conditioned. I think to get out from that conditioning, you have to work very hard. The way actually I look at it, when we send the rockets outside, out of the orbit from the Earth, it takes a lot of fuel, a lot of energy, but once it gets out, it moves on quite smoothly. So that's what it is. I think just coming out from that, that conditioning is very important. There was a guy who was a philosopher in France, and he one day came to his university, and also he was a professor, psychology professor. He came to his lecture, and he said to his doctorate student, he said, "I'm the greatest man on this earth." And the students, they were actually baffled. They said, what has happened to you, Professor? He said, "No, I'm all right. I'm absolutely right. I'm okay." And they said, "Okay, can you prove it?" He said, "Yes, I can prove it." He said, "Which is the greatest country on this earth?" They said, "Oh, it is France, of course. It's the greatest country." And he said, "In France, there are a number of cities. Which is the greatest city in this country?" They said, "Paris is the international city. It's the greatest country." And in Paris, he said, there are a number of institutions. There are universities, there are banks, there are some other institutions, business, and which is the best institution? He said, University of Paris is the greatest institution. And he said then, okay, in the institution, in the university, which department is the best? Because we've got a department of zoology, botany, chemistry, physics, and sociology, or whatever it is. They said the department of psychology is the best. He said, "Are you sure?" They said, "Yes, it is." He said, "I'm the head of that department. That's why I'm the greatest man on this earth." So I think, and what he was trying to prove, that it is the conditioning, the way we are being conditioned. So that conditioning to our personality is done from very, very young age.
It's nurture nature.
Nurture nature. And if you look at the personality, how it's made, it's 23 chromosomes from our mother and 23 chromosomes from our father. They play a certain part, but majority of the part is done by the environment, which is the family value system, and the schooling, and the books, and the television, and the radios, and all sorts of things. This is how our personality is made. And the people actually get conditioned to that sort of environment, and they start believing in. And that's why the educated people, and I know who have done the doctorate even in this country, and they're still believing in this sort of miracles, or whatever you want to call it. So it's very difficult to reason with them, and they say, "Okay, I accept what you're saying is."
Have you come across a quote unquote miracle
so far
has intrigued you, that you've in the end convinced you've worked out why it's not a miracle? But which one has been the one where you thought that you've had to have a second look at?
So far, I have not come across any miracle at all. But if you want to define the miracle in a way, I think having a childbirth is a miracle.
Absolutely.
And having a light, this electric light, is a miracle. The actual people who should be called saints, and the people who have done so much for the world, is the scientists. I think they are the ones who should be given a lot of credit. If you look at, for example, the toilet system, back in our country, the people actually used to take the toilet on their heads, and these guys who actually have invented the flush system, only just touching the button, the whole system goes out, you see. So I think those people actually are the saints, and those people are the saints who have made the cooker, for example. Otherwise, our mothers and grandmothers, they used to actually, fuka mari the chulle bajte, then they used to, cook the food. And look at that. I mean, those are the people who have done the miracles. And if you look at some other things, whatever it is, the phone system we have got, the watch we got, and we are on the television, the cameras, and other things in our home, for example, microwave, in the cars and television, telephones, and then we have got aeroplane, for example. Whatever we got, these inventions have been done by the scientists, not by these astrologers, not by these gurus, so-called babas. And also, if they got the power, do we need National Health Service in this country? Because they have got all the cures for the problems. So we do not need NHS. And if they know that who has done the crime, then we do not need police, because they can tell you that such and such guy is a pedophile, such and such guy has done the crime. We do not need that. So I think we need to look at from that point of view. And also, if they got all sort of power, then we do not need any schools, do not need any universities. Make them gurus, make them astrologers, make them babas, make them peas, tantrics. So those are my arguments, those are my logics, that these people actually
But where they are accepted as those things, that's where you see countries that are, for want of a better phrase, backwards.
Absolutely.
When you go to India, there's no official system there. Everything's very informal. Is that why they thrive there?
I think if I grossly want to blame someone, it's the governments. It's a system. It's the responsibility of the government whom we have given the faith to govern us and to give us the quality of life. They are not interested to do anything against them, because it serves their purpose, so that people get involved in those, and they are not being
the opium of the masses.
Absolutely, they're not being enlightened. And I and my other colleagues and so many other people like me, who have got a mission to give the right education, if I use the word right, or rational education to the people, and I have got a spark in my heart, so that I can give service to the people, so that they can lead a better life, and they can take away from all those evils, and can have a beautiful life, and for their children and for the generations to come, so that we can live in a world which is a real world. It's not a paranormal thing. It's a normal world we're talking about. So I think the paranormal, what are they talking about?
So you've compared these people to thieves.
I think they're criminals.
Well, they're criminals.
Yeah, I think so.
So you've, in that sense, they're not criminals in the sense that what they're doing is not illegal, or provably so.
Yeah.
But what you're saying is it's dishonest. It's a dishonest way of making a living.
Immoral, yeah.
With that in mind, we've seen recently protests outside places of worship, inside places of worship, where things are not considered to be being done correctly by the laws of either the religion or the laws of the land, in regard to the policing of those protests. Why do we not see protests outside Babbe's residence?
Thank you. I think you have already answered my question.
I've asked the question.
No, I think it's a very good question. That's what my question is. When we know that number of girls, they are being murdered in the wombs, why don't we have any protest?
There's accusations of those things.
Why don't we have any protest? When we know that there's a discrimination on the basis of on the basis of caste, why don't we have so much protest at that time? When we see anything, what's happening, when there are rape cases are happening, why don't we have any protest at a time? When we feel, when we see that there's loads of gross inequality between men and women, why don't we protest at a time? So I think those are my issues as well, and that's through my writing.
This is something you think is criminal. I think something you think, and when we see...
No, I think the criminal bit I'm talking about is that I'm saying that we've got a moral duty to do the protest.
Yeah.
As far as these people are superstitious, the people who are tantrics and babas, they are ruining their lives they are also robbing you financially.
Financially, £25,000.
Yeah, more than that. More than
I can only talk about the one that whilst we were researching this, we came across that was the most amount. There was various different cases of where people were financially left out of pocket.
Absolutely.
By something that they thought they were in control of, which they ended up not being in control of. The most that we've seen from a case was £25,000. And that's why are there not protests outside that? That Baba is UK based.
Yeah. I'm talking about the ones which have been imprisoned here in this country.
Yeah.
They were UK based. But the other point, which is a moral, because you are talking about the moral issues now, the ethical issues.
I'm talking about why the community is not weeding these people out.
Absolutely. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm trying to have some support from religious organizations and some other organizations who can actually support us. But so far, very, very few, or I can say none, have come forward actually to support us openly that we are against it. I think that's the question which is the community, and they should actually support us in this one. Even Guru Nanak Dev Ji, when he went to Haridwar, then some Pandits, they were giving water to the sun, and Guruji actually started giving water to the other side, and they were saying, what are you doing? And he said, I'm giving water to my khet, to my khet in Kartarpur. And they said, how come your water can reach there? And he said, if your water can reach to thousands and thousands of miles, why it can't reach to
light years, millions of light years?
Absolutely. So what I'm saying is that he was talking with reason and logic. And we still believe that we believe in Sikhism, we believe in Guru Nanak, but still we don't actually follow his teaching that the superstitions are not to follow, and these people have got no power.
But that you should confront them. He was actively confronting.
What we can only confront these
with logic, not with violence.
No. What we do is I write a number of articles, I speak on the television, I speak on the radio. And also, my articles actually published not only in this country and also back in India.
Yeah.
And also have a number of seminars, and people from Canada, they have invited me as a main speaker.
Paris, New Zealand.
And New Zealand, they have invited me, and Italy, they have invited me. And even in this country, they have invited me as a main speaker. So wherever I can, I'm doing my best. And also I try to come on the radio discussion programs every day. And I have got a mission in my life, whatever life is left anyway, is that so that I can give education to the people as much as I can on the rational basis and also on the scientific basis, so that people can lead
voluntarily retired.
I'm voluntarily retired. Absolutely.
Solely to focus on this.
Focus on this one. Yes.
With regard to that, you founded the Rationalist Society, Asian Rationalist Society, in 1987.
So 1997.
1997.
Yeah.
So we're talking almost 20 years.
Yeah.
What support you say that you not really seeing support from religious institutions or organizations. What support have you had? Because you have a core membership, which is the sort of management structure of 15 people. And then you have your membership, which runs into hundreds. What sort of support would you expect, and what sort of support do you feel that you should be getting from religious organizations?
I think very good question, Gurmukh, is that what I want is that they should come with us and say to us, and also when we go to them, that we are with you. When you want to actually approach someone, for example, when we're approaching the immigration people, when we're approaching the police commissioner, for example, when we're approaching the training standards, or when you are protesting against something, that they are with us to make a law in this country that these people should be used.
There's no religious aspect to what you do.
No, it's nothing.
Completely secular.
Absolutely secular. Whatever the religious institutions are doing, they should carry on doing. We got nothing against them.
You just want to see only cooperation on mutual interest.
Absolutely. I'm sure that particularly the Sikh organizations, they are also against this.
Well, it's a mutual interest.
Yeah, it's mutual interest.
And they are of the opinion that these Babbe should not be operational.
Absolutely. And we are saying that they should actually help us in this one. And also they should help us to saying to the Punjabi newspapers which are giving the advertisements of these Babas and Gurus and Tantrics, and they should be stopped. And also some of the radio and televisions, they are also doing advertisement of these Gurus and Babas, because these channels, they are focused on Asians and they do influence Asian people. So
they're focused on Asians, they're focused on financial stability as well. And advertising money, I'm not sure of any organization media-wise that would be able to be in a position to say that they don't want that funding. But morally, you're suggesting that they should be saying no.
You have already said that. I agree, but there are other ways of getting the funding. And
there is one newspaper in the UK that has ceased publication of any.
I think it's the Punjab Times has ceased publications, but the other newspapers, they do still that.
But that is one example of where a media outlet has continued to thrive.
And I think it's your moral duty.
Yeah.
Sometimes you don't do some of the work in the society, which has got a very bad name.
So do you believe that's a hollow excuse?
I think so. We went to one of the radio station here in Birmingham, and they said, no, I will not stop it. And we said, haven't you got any moral duty or any ethical duty? He said, I don't want to talk about this. So what can you do? You can only do whatever you can do, you see. So that's where I'm asking the support from a number of organizations. If they can actually help us, then we can make a protest and we can actually convince those people, the newspapers or the radio and televisions, that they shouldn't actually do this.
Harish, thank you for coming in.
Thank you very much for having me.
It's been an absolutely fascinating conversation.
Thank you very much.
A man of many different facets, of course. That's all we've got time for this week on Encounters. We hope you enjoyed the conversation with Dr. Harish Malhotra. He is a man of, like I said, many facets of knowledge. He is a social scientist. He's written 17 books, one called Racism in Britain and one called Racism in Education, which are insightful to say the least when studying institutional racism in Great Britain, most particularly in the education system. But also he's, like we said, the founder and the chair of the Asian Rationalist Society, and his work there needs quite some support. And we are from a community that says Babe and Jadoo Toona should be shut down, yet what are we doing about shutting it down? That's food for thought. Until the next time, we'll see you on Akal channel and Encounters next week. Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh.